It was during this tumultuous period that they met Shivaswamy, a sannyasi living modestly by a lake on the way to Dineri. His actual name, Lilaradhya Dishambara, proved too cumbersome for most people to say, so the locals dubbed him Shivaswamy, meaning the sannyasi by the lake. Some playfully twisted Dishambara in his longer name to Digambara Swami, meaning a naked ascetic. Though Shivaswamy wore a saffron robe, he never appeared to anyone as a Digambara. Shivaswamy's origins remained shrouded in mystery. He was reserved, seldom indulging in conversation or offering any spiritual teachings. How he sustained himself was unknown. It was Nilakanta who told Shivaswamy about Shivaswamy. How Nilakanta came to know of him was also a mystery. The duo felt compelled to visit him, as if seeking something they had lost. Unlike Shankarlinga Devaru was their previous teacher. Unlike Shankarlinga Devaru, Shivaswamy offered no lengthy discourses. He often condensed his interpretation of a vachana into a single sentence, a stroke of fortune for those who listened. On occasion, he would utter a solitary word and say, "That's it. Understand this word. That's all you need." A true minimalist, he remained unbothered by external presence, showing no concern whether visitors stayed long or departed abruptly. When Shivaswamy and Nilakanta met Shivaswamy, they were at a critical juncture in their lives. The question before them was profound. Should they lead a conventional life, anchored in career and family, or follow figures like Shivaswamy or Shankarlinga Devaru? Neither of them had any idea which option to choose. Shivaswamy, however, assumed it was neither of the two. It would later dawn on him that this assumption was inaccurate. On one occasion, Shivaswamy sought Shivaswamy's counsel alone. "What should I do? Embrace family life?" he asked him. They were walking on the bund of the lake, brimming with rainwater after a full month of rain. Shivaswamy walked right over the muddy path, ignoring the sludge, even stepping directly onto the water surface. Shivaswamy, on the other hand, kept his gaze fixed on the ground, making sure the muddy water wouldn't splash onto his feet. He took his steps with great caution, avoiding the muddy patches. Without taking a moment, the Swami provided an unexpected answer. "If you are in doubt, family life is your path," he said, and fell silent. His words, while clear, didn't bring Shivaswamy immediate solace. Nonetheless, he trailed behind Shivaswamy quietly, putting his feet on the lake's bund carefully. After a few moments of silence, Shivaswamy suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at Shivaswamy's face as if assessing something. Only those with unwavering faith in reaching another boat should dive into the waters, he advised. Let life unfold naturally. What joy is there in a fruit forced to ripen? In Kannada, there's a allamas vachana there. Otti hanna madidare adettana ruchi appudu. So he says that. That was all he said that day. It was the last time Shivaswamy saw the Swami. A sense of defeat overwhelmed him. He felt ashamed to face Shivaswamy again. He didn't see Nilakanta either for the next 4 days. It was a different matter that he would never see Nilakanta ever again. A haphazardly cut slip of paper tied to the front door latch, scribbled with the message, "I am going to the Himalayas," was all Nilakanta left behind when he departed from his home in the stealth of the night. After this sudden departure, the true meaning of the words spoken by Swami became apparent to Shivaswamy. Such a question should have never have arisen for someone embarking on the path of renunciation. Like Nilakanta, he should have plunged into the water without a second thought. Those who took the plunge did not ask, should I? They just dived in. Even if two boats sailed side by side in the same stream, crossing from one to the other demanded immense determination, a determination that solidified into an unwavering resolve. Shivaswamy lacked that level of conviction. He followed Swamy's advice and remained in the boat where he already was. He pursued his MA in history at Manasa Gangotri in Mysore. He passed the national exam for selection at BEL successfully, and when chosen, journeyed to Ghaziabad undeterred by the distance. He married Revati in a modest ceremony, steering clear of extravagant expenses. Their union was blessed with 2 children. The vessel of family life seemed sturdy, steering him safely through life. I think that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough. Thank you very much. That's lovely. See his prose, what really shines is the sentences like this. He said, right? So I'll tell that in the Kannada one actually. So he read that in English. ಒಂದೇ ತೊರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ 2 ದೋಣಿಗಳಿದ್ದರೂ ಒಂದರಿಂದ ಮತ್ತೊಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾರಿಕೊಳ್ಳಲು ಮಹಾ ಎದೆಗಾರಿಕೆ ಬೇಕು. Though 2 boats are sailing in the same river, so you need courage to jump from one boat to another boat. It's not easy. This is what it says, right? So that kind of a thing. And also in that one, he says the same paragraph. Another thing comes in Kannada. He says if you are talking about detachment from the society, this thing, there is nothing like partial detachment. If at all there has to be detachment, it has to be 100%. Even if you have 1% doubt also, you end up in a family life, is what he says. Okay, so that kind of sentences makes his prose very rich. Okay, so generally we expect a hero and heroine, especially if they are youth, in a novel most of the time. But this is not about that. You will be disappointed if you are looking for that. Here, the main protagonist was also a retired employee. Okay, and another one equally important character who becomes his friend is also a person who is almost 60 plus or 70 plus, like that. So that kind of a thing. So what it talks about is their friendship, why they have become a friend, or why they become associated in handling some particular task, and how the journey goes. That's what it is in a broad sense. But let us listen to him. What is this about? Actually, this is a broad way of telling what is the story about, what is the plot about, what do they expect from your novel. Can you just tell about that, the theme of the novel?
Okay. For a literary fiction, this is always a difficult question for me, because it's not just one theme literary fiction carries, right? There are several threads will be there, several themes will be there. And this is a common question from English publishers and agents. You provide the synopsis of the novel. Then once I joked with my agent that, if I can write the synopsis for the novel, I just write the synopsis. And why to write the novel? So that's the kind. You see, that goes with the characters and scenes, premise and all. A kind of a literary fiction provides a kind of wide range of the literary landscape. So here, the first thread here is about money. So it asks a question: how does a man, a person, who is not in a mad way chasing money, and who wants to hold his values as well peace of mind, faces this world? And this person is, as Vasu said, the renunciation, what we call vairagya. If it is not 100%, then you never land up in Himalaya, and you always land up in this world. So in that case, how do they face the world? Now, what are the things they compromise? And see here, my protagonist Shivaswamy. Now, as you kind of from the pages I read, you already assume. Now, he grew up in an ashram in Siddhaganga Mutt. Siddhaganga Mutt, they teach the value of minimalist living. And here comes the city where there's a mad rush for money. And he has to live with these two contradictions. And see, he ends up working for a company, and certain things go against to his values. And how, what are the dilemmas he faces? Now, that was one thread. And the second thread was a story of a friendship. As Vasu already mentioned, it's a friendship between two elderly men. And there is a contradiction there. So one is poor and the other one is an entrepreneur. And is immensely rich. And how do their bonds sustain? And when it comes to money and power, there is one arrogance. Anything can be bought and anything can be purchased. The famous quote from The Godfather, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. That's the kind of attitude. And here is a guy, a poor guy, who is not ready to sacrifice his self-respect. So in that case, how do you interpret their friendship? That was another thread, kind of I handled. And of course, I talked about, I wrote about a company, a family-run company. And inside the company, there's a dynamics, there's a power struggle. That was a thread. And Shivaswamy has his own family. And how do they stay integrated, close, and how do they help each other? The family thread is also there. Like that, there are several interconnected threads make this novel.
That's nice, actually. And the novel has an excellent cover page, especially this penguin is very good at making the cover page. I wish some representatives had come from Penguin for this event. They really do very good cover pages, and even inside the typesetting and the printing is excellent, actually. So we have a lot to learn. The Kannada people can learn quite a lot. It will be simple, but it will be elegant, actually. So it's beautifully done book. And see this, when we are talking about, you said that it's about elderly people and also the Siddhaganga Mutt, right? So, and so many other things. The question here is, what inspired you to write this novel? So what the inspiration comes, and how can you put characters which are slightly different from your own personal life also, right? So it's not that you are not come from the Siddhaganga and you are not mingled so much with the Lingayat family. So which is there even in Tarabai Patra also. It's a different caste, and that settings which you put it up. So how easy or how difficult, or what is the purpose behind that also? So here, first, what inspired you to write this particular novel and bringing a word which is unfamiliar to you, actually, and making it seamlessly, like it's genuine, like organic. It doesn't look inorganic, which is forced into the novel. How does it work?
Okay. So first, let me talk about what inspired this novel. it's hard to identify, exactly, kind of is there's a what really inspired to write a novel. But see, because there are so many thousands of thoughts go on in us every day, right? Not every thought becomes a subject for the novel. And there are a few, kind of stubborn few. They hit you and they sink in and they germinate. And why those thoughts? Why those ideas? Only God knows. And if you actually, the Henry James calls it a wandering world. That means I just give an example. In African safari, the bison herd goes as one, and there is one mischievous, and that kind of leaves the herd, and kind of it goes around and it attracts lion. So this word is almost like that. For me, that kind of seed came in very, very ordinary setting, a kind of a job interview. A few years back, I was working for a company here. I was heading their offshore Bangalore branch, and one of my responsibilities was to take the final interview of the candidates. Those who clear the technical interviews, for the final interview, they were coming to me, and mostly it used to be a kind of HR interview and setting their expectations and salary and that part. One afternoon, one person entered my office for his final interview. He was over 60. And he was retired from a public sector. And, the position we were looking for was a finance consultant. We were an ERP company, and a finance consultant. And that position was a kind of, it's not that senior position. And if he selected, he has to travel a lot. This week to Dubai and next week to Manila, Singapore, like that. That position involves a lot of traveling. As well, one more point was that if you get selected, he has to report to a manager who was half of his age.
Yeah.
And he agreed for all. And as the interview progressed, I asked him a question. After retirement, what prompted now, for you to look for another job? Really? Then he, with a low and hesitating voice, told me, because of some hardships befallen on my family, and because of some poor finance decisions I made, I lost my retirement savings. I lost my retirement fund. That's why I had to work again. His sorrow words, his worried face, stayed with me. It haunted me, kind of. The expression of despair, in his voice, never faded away from me. And gradually, that became the character of Shivaswamy in this novel. And he didn't join. And that was a small, brief encounter, I had with him. And what I knew about him was that there's just one expression, one sentence. The rest, 99.99%, is kind of my imagination. But still, today too, if I think about my character Shivaswamy, his face comes into me. So, to conclude, a kind of seemingly ordinary event kind of sowed seed for this.
Yeah, that's great, actually. So that should carry to this another question which I have as like, see, we have, you write, I have written only novels. For me, like I have written novel as well as short stories. Short stories, generally the seed of the short story comes in a flash, like one incident like this you said. So it flashes and immediately short story gets formed in me and I start working on it and suddenly it becomes it gets all the color and external aesthetic sense and all those things. How is it in case of a novel for you? So is it like just a flash, like which you said, or it just something starts and then it goes on developing? So what is this process like?
No, it was never a flash, and it's very gradual process for me.
Yeah.
See, generally, it takes 4 or 5 steps. I think that's common for all of us, I believe. Many. The one is a kind of, the idea germination. The one I talked about, the interview, the wandering word, a word or a kind of, seen witnessed or something you overheard, something, get stuck, kind of, there are many writers there. I think you all agree with me. So that is, once you get the idea, so that kind of, its litmus test is only the time. You know that if it doesn't leave your mind and it haunts you, you know that it's growing. The tree is growing in you. That growing part is a kind of the second stage. That is a kind of meditation stage. It's a kind of you carry that idea for months and for years.
Yeah.
And I'm a character-driven writer, whatever it sounds like. So that means, the characters come to me first. Then, followed by the plot and premise and other stuff. As I said, rightly, kind of it's Hindustani music. And these characters, the way they grow is, the moment I'm alone while I'm working, while I'm driving, and mostly it's driving, they trouble you. And when you're stopped at signal light, they come and they tap your shoulder and they talk to you. Kind of that.
For me, it's mostly in bathroom.
For me too, it happened. Basically, they wait for an opportunity. When you are alone, then they capture you. And it's not that we capture the characters; the characters capture you. And slowly they introduce their family, slowly they introduce their friends, and within a short time, your living room is filled with those characters. That's the thing. And once that happens, in my case, the story comes there. Kind of, through the characters, the story comes there. It's not because of story and I create characters. Then writing the first draft. First draft is a kind of the pencil draft. It's usually called in English, right? That means we write it in a way that kind of it should be finished. Like the sentences are all incomplete, the grammar is non-comprehensible, and it's readable only to me, mostly. That kind. And it should be done like that only, because if you concentrate more on making it fine, then these characters don't talk to you. And once that is done, then the rewriting process. The rewriting process is a kind of never ending, and until somebody has to snatch the manuscript from your hand. There are two villains like that. So one is my publisher for business reasons, and my wife for other reasons. So eventually they make you stop that. And then I send the manuscript to a close group of friends and associates. Of course, Vasu is there in the center. And before that, I usually give my manuscript to my wife, and she does one fine test. That is whether it kept her engaged or not. That's the answer I get, and that is very important to me. So, and then my writer friends can tell me more on. They are like engineers inspecting a building. So the construction is right, pillars are right. Where they got confused, where the characters are kind of shortened, all those things. Then once that is changed, it goes for publication. As well, there are sometimes the subject matter experts help you. Here, there's the construction stuff and all, and BBMP terminologies and all. Karki Krishnamurti, he's a novelist as well as a civil engineer. He helped me a lot, for that, to correct certain things, to make it more realistic. So that's how it goes for me.
Yeah, that's nice actually. Yeah, that's you talked about entry criteria to a novel, means how you germinates and the meditation happens and then the process of writing and concluding. But there is an exit process. We need to come out of it also actually, because it still will be haunting even after completion, right? It never leaves us actually. Those characters still there, but we cannot stay with them for long. We need to come out of it, right? What is that exit process? Means do you consciously do that exit process, or is it another seed, or this thing novel comes then only it will end? How is it?
Yes. That's the thing. And another set of characters come and vacate them. So Orwell calls this, writing a novel is incurable disease. It's for life. So these 5 steps or 6 steps, what I defined, it goes for every novel and throughout life. So another set of characters come and see, generally once it is published, a kind of, that's an indication to these characters that, they are done. They have to vacate. And slowly, see, the more you talk about those characters, they hesitate. They don't want you to talk about. That's the reason, when I'm writing my novel, I don't talk about, Rupa, my wife asked several times, what's the topic this time? What are you writing? And then I never tell. So because the moment you start expressing it, they hesitate. They hesitate to talk to me even. So that's the reason, it's not to keep any secret, but, to fulfill them, I don't talk. But the more you start talking about, now Shivaswamy doesn't come to me because, I am all Shivaswamy, I'm talking about Shivaswamy. He doesn't come to me. So that's how, these characters fade out and the new set of characters come in.
It's almost like, like there was an English film called Beautiful Mind, the protagonist of The Beautiful Mind, right? Though it has shown little bit negatively in that film, but most of the authors are like that Beautiful Mind hero only, actually. So the characters will be moving around. Yeah, John Nash story, actually. So that's how it goes, I think. That's fantastic, actually. It's more like we have a limited number of guest house rooms, so that if you new people have to come, means they have to vacate. The old people have to vacate. So that's how the other thing. So that's in a way lucky. But one thing which I really liked is, like it's Orwell said, of at least royalty which comes to you, and there cannot be any other disease in this world which can get you some benefits out of it. Okay, so this is the only disease maybe which gets some benefits. Okay, but what exactly is when we say that there is a core of the novel? There's a core of the novel. Soul of the novel, we can say, right? So it's a soul of the novel. Does it exist in a small part of it, or does it spread across the novel? So how is it actually? Is it there everywhere, or is there in a very subtlety? So how does it work for you?
I understand it like this. Whether the universal theme which runs the novel across, that's the core, or kind of the subtleties which build that. That's, yeah. So it's like bricks and wall. The bricks make the wall, right? Can you separate them? The moment you separate them, the wall is not there. The emotions and the theme are very much like that, inseparable. And we achieve something through these emotions. How you put the bricks and build the wall, like that. So what best example I can take than Anna Karenina? Anna Karenina, a kind of social morality is the theme, it runs. But today, after finish reading that novel, if you recall Anna, if you recall that, the Anna's face coming, right? And her emotions, her longing, kind of her sorrow, her love, all those things, her emotions. And see, what happened to theme? Theme is there, but these emotions take you to the theme. In Milan Kundera's, the unbearable lightness of being. The emotions, right? The freedom is the theme there. Freedom versus fate. But today, if I remember that, I always remember the characters. I remember Thomas and Teresa, and their love, their deception, their jealousy, these things. So of course, there are theme-based novels, right? The Crime and Punishment, the Brothers Karamazov, 1984, all big theme-based novels. But there are novels without a big themes too. Jhumpa Lahari is the namesake. It's a beautiful novel, but it doesn't shout any theme. Today, if you remember, that novel, it is the silence between father and son, and the sorrow of that widow, Ashima, when Ashok dies, and the misplaced expectation of their children, the immigration thing, and all those things come to your mind. So my take is, and here too, kind of the Shivaswamy is, the theme runs here is the money and how a price tag is set on you. But again, all Shivaswamy's emotions, kind of made me to write this. So I believe that if your characters behave true to their age and situation and all, it doesn't matter. I kind of see the small emotions take you to the big themes.
That's great. Now let us come to the other things, the process translation. So you have translated on your own. So how is the feeling? Is it good? Or is there any other benefits or disadvantages? And what is it like being a translator of your own text?
This is the path of Rabindranath Tagore and our own Girish Karnad. And I'm very happy that I experimented on this. And, the self-translation is both liberating and exhausting. So, what are the joys? Let me tell you, what are the joys, what are the things I enjoyed. Number one is creative freedom. I considered this translation as my second draft. Now, that means I'm writing this again for a new set of audiences, new set of readers. And that expects many parts to be rewritten and those things. And thank God, my translator did not have to take any permission from the original author.
You have freedom.
So the translator and the original author worked in tandem for this. So that is a kind of one good thing. And the second is, when it comes to translation, we always talk about the language part, right? But when it comes to the fiction, it's characters. The voice of the character and how much you understand the depth of those, the psychology of those characters and their emotions. And I see language to that extent, plays not that significant role when it comes to the fiction translation. How much I know Kannada and how much I know English is kind of questionable. Probably 10 or 20% of what some pandits know. But still we write, right? So here, who can understand the psychology and emotions of these characters other than one who created them? And it's like, how a mother understands their children well. Yeah. So like that, this became kind of very natural for me. When I think about Shivaswamy or his wife or their children or Dawal or any other characters, they came natural to me. And the challenge part, So the biggest challenge is, see, this translation take away the fun of exploration. That means it's plot is fixed. You know the end. And how a story writer like me, keep motivated, right? So it's as if you're not watching a live match. You're watching the replay. You know the result. So that is something, often, you get story writers, the creative writers get bored in translation. And the second challenge was, since I'm not a professional translator, this demanded a kind of immense time and energy from me. And you keep the dictionary, you keep the thesaurus, and you really, this is something. What do they say like that? And see, social language is not English, right? And especially when it comes to the dialogues, it's a difficult proposition for us to write in English. And for us, see, take Kannada. Kannada is not one language. There are so many variants there, right? So Karavali Kannada, Mysore Kannada, Dharwad Kannada, like that. But here, since it's not a social language, everything is normalized. The priest speaks the same, and the police speaks the same, the politicians speak, everything. And see, slowly, kind of, we are language people, kind of the story writers. Slowly get bored on that. So, and see, that becomes mostly a kind of technical work for you. And for a creative writer, translation, the more it takes time, you feel frustrated because, it keeps you away from writing new stories. So, all these challenges, but still, at the end of the day, I'm happy that, I translated it for a new set of readers. So, if you ask me whether I do that, you told me, actually you announced already that Datta is going to translate his novel. No, I don't know.
Yeah, but for me, no, though I'm not as good as him in English, but even if I had to translate, the major problem will be to read my own book. I just don't like it.
Exactly.
Who will read the entire book once again?
That is called, climbing the mountain again. You already climbed, it's another route you're climbing.
Another route you're climbing. And that too, at least you have some 200, 250 page. Mine is 450 pages novels. I get mad, I think. And also it's a question of time, how much time we can spend this. Though it's a creative act. See, I have done translation from English to Kannada and Telugu to Kannada. That is an enjoyable process.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing with language there, actually, my own mother tongue, so which is very good, actually. So I keep on in finding out what word suits, what this thing means. So that is a very enjoyable process for me, translating from another language to my own language. But if it's a translation of Kannada to English, that to my own book, it's quite a tedious process. Maybe it is because it's difficult to get a translator. It's not easy.
Exactly.
Actually, it's not easy to get a good translator in Kannada. It's not at all easy, and a lot of compromises happens.
So the Telugu translation happened at the same time. So the Telugu and Kannada are all sister languages, right? It's directly translatable for him. And he, of course, he's an excellent translator.
Yeah, he does it in so fast.
So as well, it's directly translatable.
Yeah.
So because they are the language from the same origin. When it comes to English,
it's different.
Yeah,
and in fact, my novel, that Reshme Bhatte, which is 472 pages, I launched in September, and then I gave him the book, and they launched in December. That book in Telugu, it got launched so quickly they could do the translation. It's like a different way, actually. But English is not that easy. But when we come to the translation, so recently the Booker Prize has come, so we're all happy and proud about the Booker Prize for Kannada. But the translator Deepa Basti has made a statement about going against the italics. Let us not use the italics. Let them learn that there is a different words or different meaning where there is no English equivalent word. We are not going to put it in italics. We'll put it in directly as a English this thing. So this has got a kind of a debate. It's not that everyone has agreed to it. Okay. So how do you take a stand on this? What was your perspective on that?
Okay. First let me use the stage to congratulate Banu Mushtaq and Deepa Basti for their tremendous success. And, the Heart Lamp is a wonderful story collection, and Deepa Basti translated it really well. And as you said, Deepa Basti included an essay at the end of the book called Against Italics. And not only that, she talks about the italics at the end. In the beginning, she gives very good introduction of Banu Mushtaq. And also, she gives introduction of Bandai Sahitya and the various flavors of Kannada.
Yeah.
And I found it kind of, it's very interesting because that's how, you introduce, our literature and our writers to outside world, right? Preamble. And she also, at the end, she writes about this against italics, and her question was, like, if you flag a Kannada word in italics to declare that, it's an alien to you, it's a foreign word, then you're separating it, right? So it's as well, it's a visual distraction. If you all of a sudden your font changed, and it's a visual distraction. Now that part I agree. But the translation is such a tight rope walk. It's hard to say that what really works for a reader and what doesn't. And nowadays, the readers use mostly the e-readers, right? Kindle and all.
Yeah.
And if a word is unfamiliar to them, what do? They tap on that, the dictionary pops up, and they see the word and they move on, right? And if there's a foreign word, and if it's not in italics, and they tap on that, and then it comes in, the dictionary comes in, and it says no meaning, and that's also a kind of visual distraction. And at this time, no dictionary integrates all the languages of the world. So, whether to go for italics or not to go for italics, that's the question. Again, every translator have to deal with in a separate way, in his own way. In my case, what I did is, when I use certain words, when I use Kannada words the first time, I use italics as well. With a hyphen, I give a word or two, a kind of little brief meaning. Then the word repeats again, comes again. Then I don't make it italics. As well, there are other situations where we use italics. In one situation, what happens? Shivaswamy hears one heartbreaking news, and he exclaims, "Ayyo Shivane." That's a common expression here, right? And I found that I can't translate that at all. There's no equivalent one. So I kept it as is, and I put the italics. I didn't put any meaning. If somebody interested, then they can take that to know, and they can go to Google and they can find the answer. So the thing is that I understand, Deepa Basti's concern in another context. The moment you put italics to a word, then in a way, in an implied way, you're saying that, not just saying that, the word is foreign, you're also saying that that character is foreign, the story is foreign, the culture is foreign. That means, you yourself separating it from the reader. Should we do that? That's her question. To that point, I agree with her.
So and also maybe it's against italics. The trend itself might force the English dictionary to include our words as well down the line. If we start using IO everywhere in most of the translations of English, that becomes a part of their word because they have to provide the meaning of it,
True.
right?
Certain words
So-
like yoga, those are all karma.
It enriches.
They are already there.
Enriches. So we have learned so many Greek words actually, which is there's no meaning for us in this thing, but we have the Greek words, italic words, and all those things. So it might be same thing, and in the same thing because the Booker has come to Canada. It's for the first time. It's such a prestigious award. In this aspect, like what do you see that we should do to promote Kannada literature more to the world readership? Because now it has become the translation means it's only the translation to the English is what has become actually translation to the other languages also. They will see if it is become popular in English, then only they are translating it to Telugu or Tamil or Malayalam. Means we are taking the English bridge to cross to our own land. Actually, which is sad, but that's the case now. So how do you want to see more Kannada books got promoted and more people read them? See, if it had not got the Booker Prize, if it would have published by some local publisher this in English form, it would never have reached so many readers. Now it is big, like everywhere it's a #1 bestseller, right? So we need to have more and more exposure to the international world about our Kannada books. So what's your views on that?
The translation is something, definitely it's not one-time celebration. The translation is, it's a culture, it's a cultural diplomacy. And the translation is the window, through which you see the world, as well the world sees you. It needs to be a kind of two-way nowadays, and it should be two-way.
Yeah, and it's a window.
And it's a window. Window. And see, as Banu Mushtaq, in her acceptance speech, she mentioned there, right? Kind of, this is not the recognition for one book or one writer, it's for the heritage. I mean, that's I really appreciate her, for saying that. Because, you are tasting a fruit, but there's a healthy tree behind that, to give you that fruit, right? And see, when it comes to translation, kind of, we are not in a happy state. That we know. Now, how many able translators you can count, at the time, so who can translate the fiction, good fiction from Kannada to English? You can count them in one hand.
Yeah.
So that is not a good state. And see, when it comes to Europe, it's a kind of institutional push. The translation is an institutional push. And where are we? Where are our university programs on translation? Where do we promote them? Where do we encourage our young translators? So these are all things haunt us. So the issues which prevent us, which haunt us, for Olympic medals, are the same issues which trouble us for translation too. See, we had to kind of think through them, how to support it. So always, my take is that so translation should be considered as a cultural investment, not a kind of one-time celebration.
Yeah.
So we should go for it.
Yeah, I think they say like for every 5 years or 10 years, a new translation has to come. If it's a classic, so again another one has to keep coming. But the question here is something, what happens is many translators are not well paid actually from the publishers, English publishers. So some other way, our author cannot pay them as well. It's also very difficult. Very few can do. And more than anything else, there are many Kannada authors who do not have a good English. They can't even approach an English publisher. They can't even interact with a non-Kannada speaker. So for them also we need an avenue, a process where their good books are recognized by an agency and taken it out to a bigger market. So kind of an agency which we don't have. See, it's so unfortunate for a Kannada book which has won the Booker. The agency is based in Hindi who doesn't know anything about Kannada. Delhi. Right? So that's sad. So maybe some kind of an agencies has to happen within the Karnataka itself, and also government has to get involved because it demands some kind of financial assistance so that identify what kind of a books can be taken it up, or who can approach them, how we can approach them. So that kind of a thing can be handled.
So when it comes to writing stories and novels, you immensely enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So, that prompts us, kind of, how much we are earning from our books, that is something.
No, translation is different.
Translation, I was
different.
coming to
there
that.
are many people want to live on the translations also. So we need to respect that.
Exactly.
For us as an author, it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So many of them may not be monetarily so much interested in the monetary terms. But the translator, there are many translators who would like to take it as a profession and want to live on that.
Live on that.
Yeah.
See, I was coming to that. See, the thing is that for a translator, the external help is very much required. The institutional help is very much required. And see, translation is a kind of chance, right? You translate a novel, you don't know, whether a publisher take it or not. And yeah, see, at that time, who is going to cover those translators? Who is going to encourage those translators? So these are all the matters I think, we need to openly discuss, and we need to kind of help our translators.
See, what happens is most of these English publishers who are Penguin or HarperCollins and all, they don't have people who read Kannada literature. Right? That is the problem for us, actually, because there is no one who can recommend to them, this is a good book which has come in Kannada, so we need to publish it. But interestingly, most of these publishers have Malayalis and Bengalis in bulk, like more 80% or 90% of them are Malayalis and Bengalis, and that's the reason why most of the Malayali books and Bengali books are getting translated so often. But Kannada, we need to fill that space also so that Kannada books gets the encouragement.
That's the cultural network.
Yeah, we need that one. So I think we have spoken enough about Shivaswamy. We'll give 5 to 10 minutes time for the listeners to ask questions. So anyone, if would like to ask any question about this book, and I can assure you it's one of the best read actually. So that's one of the best work actually. And I have published all his books actually. Most of his books I have published. Okay, so his 3 books, important books, including the Tarabai Patra I have published, and now he has grown up. Generally, someone who has become a celebrity, I don't publish their books. So now he is getting published with the other publishers.
Vasu is my first publisher actually.
Yeah.
In a way. So if I discount one poetry collection that I published in my previous Janma. So Vasu is actually my first publisher.
Yeah.
He published my 2 novels and 1 essay collection.
Essay collection, true. Fine. So it's open. So anyone would like to ask the question, sir?
Actually, I'm a novice for this whole literacy, word. Literature word.
Yeah.
So I was just curious how things happens. Just came with an open mind here. So I have one simple question. Which book I buy? English version or Kannada version of it?
You can read Kannada, definitely you have to buy Kannada. Absolutely. Reading word.
Yeah, I'm from Mysore, so Mysore Udgas.
That makes Penguin unhappy.
That's okay. So I can tell you, let them be unhappy. But if you can read original, any language for that matter, read it in original. But if you can't read the original, then you go for the translation.
That's the thing. If you are from this land, and if your social language is Kannada, reading Kannada literature appeals you more, surely. And so English is a kind of, again, when the translation was exactly for this point. See, you read Kannada novels because you can read Kannada, right? So how do you read Gujarati novels or Hindi novels? That's where the common language for us is English, and we had to read it through English. Otherwise, if it comes to Kannada, I suggest to read Kannada.
For me, I put it in a different way. If you get filter coffee, better go for a filter coffee. Only when filter coffee is not available, then you should go for instant coffee. So that's what it is. Like otherwise, when filter coffee is available, you should never go for an instant coffee.
So, just a follow-on question. So, it so happens to us, at least Kannada again problem illa. Sometimes we'll read some books from Hindi and all those things too. And I use a technology tool, like Google Translator or something like that. Just with your, knowledge on those, how good those translators are. Will that really represent
How
our-
good those translators are for you to understand a novel,
Yes.
or for you to translate?
Yeah, probably we'll translate around 2 to 3 pages and
Okay,
try to see.
okay.
Sometimes a poems comes in, we'll try to translate it.
No, actually, see.
So how good is the technology today? That's my question.
Yeah. It goes like this. Since last 5 years, we are very much discussing on whether AI can create stories or not, right? AI creates stories, and how much we like it, that's another matter. So the thing was that all these translators and translators were there earlier too, but now after AI, they took a boost. Their thing was that they work well when certain things are predictable. Now, for example, non-fiction. If you read non-fiction is very, very well translatable by these tools. But human emotions are unpredictable, very much unpredictable. And when it comes to human emotions, it's not that good tool. And very similarly for the translation too. For the translation too, a human translator can bring the elements based on his social experience. And these translators lack that. And as I said, the way a priest speaks, the way a policeman speaks, two are different. And when in the source language, in the Hindi it would be written separately. Kind of Hindi is also an Indian language, and they use the emotions there. And when it comes to English or Kannada, these AI translators, they mess up. So at this time, at least, they are not in a state to translate fiction. Even, see, they are helpful for editing. Once you have something, we, especially for us, the grammar part is a kind of terrifying one, right? So you mix tenses in sentences, we mess up with tenses. They can identify those. But again, there too, a human editor can give some discount to some faults, because some faults are a kind of literary ones. They are beautiful. They require that. And a kind of AI is a kind of, it's a machine. It won't understand. As well, an editor is, in my case, a human editor. Even it happened with this book. So the editor, hey, while reading this part, I found certain things boring. They can say that. But there's no boring for AI. So, you give the text, it gives you translation. And how it is, see, the way you read Kannada and the way you read English, those two are different. Actually, in my first chapter, I include a lot of interview details. And while translating, I thought, who reads my English novel? The one who reads are all from metro cities, right? As well, they lead mostly industrious life. And for them, if I include a HR interview this much, they may find it boring. So I cut there. Those are all the decisions right now. The AI can't make.
Positively on that, compared to 5 years back, what AI trans, and now, because now my book, so they write reviews about that book, Malayalam or Tamil. The text and asking ChatGPT to translate. Absolutely no problem. And they started sharing their articles, stories, and all, which is I'm able to. So in 5 years, so much of convince. Another 5 years, I expect while buying in Amazon, just while buying a shirt or pant. Like that, do you want it in Kannada, or do you want it in English, or do you want it in Tamil, Malayalam? So there might be possibility of that. So it has really improved, and also it depends upon the kind of text it is. For my text, what I write, my stories, Datta stories, it can translate to some extent. But if you give Devanur Mahadeva's text and ask it to translate it to English, it may fail. Actually, because he uses a dialect which AI cannot understand. So much of dialect intense it is actually. And as far as the poetry is concerned, I personally feel poetry should not be translated.
Poetry should not be translated.
Should not be translated.
Yeah.
Actually, should enjoy only in the original language. It just loses its essence. Right. Any other questions? Yeah, sir, please. Yeah. I'll also come. She's younger.
ಸಾರಿ ಸರ್ ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ನನಗೆ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ವಾ, ನೀವು ಸಿದ್ಧಗಂಗಾ ಮಠದಿಂದ ಓದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಹೌ ಡಿಡ್ ಯು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ದಟ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್? ಇಟ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್. ಐ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟ್ರೈಡ್. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ young to write, but I was trying. I couldn't create that background. How did you do it?
Yeah, you didn't answer my question, right?
Yeah. The Siddhaganga Mutt and in turn Allama Prabhu in this novel is a kind of spiritual allegory for this novel. I told you, kind of Siddhaganga Mutt is there in Tumkur, and it's just 70 kilometers away from Bangalore, right? But, for me, a yardstick is required to hold a mirror to my protagonist. Now, for his every decisions or for every thought, to measure there. And see, the moment, the psychology is extreme. For example, Shivaswamy works for a software company. And Shivaswamy if Shivaswamy is from metro background, lived here, studied in National College, then it won't make that much, a kind of big leap for him. But here, he's the guy, came from a village, and the reason, it's very well described there, that why he has to go to Siddhaganga Mutt, it's their poverty. And he gets a friend who is very much interested in renunciation, vairagya, and these things. And then for his own reasons, now he landed in Bangalore. So these extremes. So when I use extremes, then it gives you a kind of better clarity. It's like holding the mirror. It's a moral mirror. And our a renowned writer of Kannada, D.V. Gundappa, calls it Tattva Viveka. Tattva Viveka means you select your morality for your life, and you attempt to live with it. And every person does that. He selects his own morality. Your morality is different. Mine is different. Not the big ones. You don't steal, and not those big ones. For a particular situation, how we behave is always driven by this Tattva Viveka. So Shivaswamy's Tattva Viveka is a kind of different. He grew up in the ashram, and he believes in Allama Prabhu and his vachanas. And a kind of, the contradictions he goes through, a kind of, Allama is a kind of extreme one. Allama you can't follow. He's extremely ascetic, that kind of. How do you, so in such cases, how this guy manages in the world? To that I brought it. But again, if your question is how such experiences come to novel, for any novel, the sources we draw from three things. One is your experience, your personal experience. Second is your observation. Third is your imagination. So the more it comes from your experience, that much authentic it is. But again, there's a limitation. You can't experience everything in this world. So the next big part is the observation. And I visited several times to that ashram. I know very closely. I read about them. and all. So, kind of the first part and second part, my experience and observation brought more stuff. And imagination, of course, that's the gift of a writer. We put the stories to it.
Yeah, congratulations to Mr. Dattathri.
Thank you.
I hope this will reach international market and it will reach more readership. I have read your book, Ondondu Talegu Ondondu Bele. Such a beautiful title. Why the same title strength you have not brought to this? This is like a question mark. Yeah. What is your name? What is your prize, Mr. Shivaswamy? Anything behind this? Yeah. Because I felt the title of this one, Kannada, it is very, very, very attractive.
Okay.
Yeah, anything behind this?
Okay.
Or why you could not have translated the same type of meaning to this English novel also?
Okay. Chandru and I worked, we started our jobs together, like Shivaswamy in the public sector. Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Chandru. It's always a struggle for me to get a title to my novel. And, it's a struggle for, I think, most writers. Once I know, I read somewhere, S.L. Bhairappa was so much frustrated for a title and he said, make it fifth novel of S.L. Bhairappa. See, that's the thing, because as I said, there are so many threads. You don't know, if you select one title, you do the injustice to the other threads and all those things. And for the Kannada novel, I was I called it Kalla Kennege Muttu, because
initially that was the
actually one. When Vasu read it was Kalla Kennege Muttu. Then S. Divakar, a very talented and renowned writer of Kannada, he suggested me, hey, that sounds like a poetry collection. Why don't you think something else? And then we came up with this, Ondondu Talegu Ondondu Bele. See, that is very rhyming one. Ondondu Talegu Ondondu Bele. And when I translate that to English, it became a kind of, so ordinary and never felt its equivalent. Flat. It became flat. So that's the time, we were, again, for the English version, like Kannada version, we were struggling, what to call this novel. We were calling it as, first we called it second innings, because, he starts working again, right? So until last day, the Penguin still, in Penguin, certain people still calls it second innings, the second innings. So then, I came up with this title because, as I said, one of the big themes here is how a price tag is set on us, how we become commodity. And here, though, he becomes a friend to an entrepreneur and all, and, that person, the aged person, and he understands Shivaswamy, still a that game is there, setting the price. And see, Shivaswamy undergoes the trouble everywhere. He tries to buy a house and somebody tries to set a price for him, for his morality. And inside the company, there are fractions, the groups, and they try to set the price and all. So that's the reason, then I thought, rather than answer, I settle for a question. What's your price, Mr. Shivaswamy? That sarcastically sets the tone of the novel, So that's the reason, we end up with that.
Kumar, please. To see more questions coming.
You have translated this yourself. You know the difficulties of translation you have faced.
Yeah.
Suppose somebody comes and tells you want to translate your other books like Sarpa Brahme. What will be your reaction? Will you give them a chance, or will you yourself translate them?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. it became very difficult. See, you raised it very well, na Sarpa Brahme, because Rashmi Terdal approached me, and she asked me whether I permit her to translate Sarpa Brahme. Then I was thinking about it because I'm very kind of peculiar. Then I said, see, there are two groups. We always discuss, Vasu and I always discuss. Vasu is a hand-off approach, like, take, translate, and I'll read the final one. That kind, Vasu. And, for me, it's not like that. Then I told her, Rashmi, kind of, though you translate it, I may seriously edit it. So, kind of, we both may have to work in a very collaborative way for this. And she's a kind of very mature person, and she said, yeah, that's really, I want that. So now I think it's going on. So the translation is happening. So that's the thing. I'm completely involved there. So every chapter she sends me, and I edit it, and then she put her comments, then it goes for second round, third round, like that. So elaborate process, but we both are taking. And see, that is a kind of liberating to me, because as I said, it's leaving me for my new stories.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe ignorance is bliss. If you don't have good English, you don't have to worry about it. You do something, that's all. Otherwise, if they are, my book has been translated to Spanish. What can I do with them actually? So you do whatever you want. Only Telugu, Tamil. I can read Telugu as well, but I feel like, why should I have to waste time? Let the publisher take care of it and translator take care of it. I cannot go on doing correcting everywhere, right? So I can just take care of my Kannada works. That's it.
Sometimes becoming too picky is kind of. So I heard that Milan Kundera never let translator. I think 7 or 8 translators tried. The one. What is that?
Light.
The light. Yeah. The lightness of being. Yeah. And the unbearable lightness of being. And he rejected all. And translators were frustrated. And eventually he accepted one. I'm not that extent. But again, for me, it's very important, certain things, can be taken care in 2 words, and it should be 2 words only, like that. So I trouble translators.
Yeah. You had one question, right? Okay. We'll conclude with that. Maybe
Yeah.
it's almost 1:50.
Yeah.
ಸರ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ರೈಟರ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಲಾಗ್ ಬರುತ್ತಾ? ಬಂದರೆ ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ನಿಮ್ಮದಿದೆ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ, ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಆರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಅವರ್ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು?
Yeah, see, the writer's block is something, I'll get it. Like, it's often cricket players lose their form, right? That's the thing. Certain times, see, usually my writing time is kind of morning time. I wake up at morning 4:30 and during the writing days. And certain days I can write pages together. But certain days, not even a paragraph. I'm stuck there. So it's various parameters, probably even the characters which are talking to me and themselves confused, or kind of the whole theme is confused, story is confused. I mean, various reasons. And in those times, what helps me is stop it, read a book or something, and then give it a time. Now, because the story development is, compared to fiction and non-fiction, the thing is that fiction develops here in your heart. You have to give time. And the writer block means kind of the story is still not developed. The fruit is still not ripened. So then give it some time. Leave it for a few days. Then one fine day, when you try to write it, that, kind of, there are many things settled. Let me write it. Then it flows. So taking it easy is the good approach. That's the reason. See, since we are not professional writers, we don't write for somebody else. There is no usually the time pressure. It takes 4 years for a novel. No, that's his cycle. So that means if I can't write it today, no harm. See, then I leave it for next 3 days and then it gets settled itself.
Any other unstoppable question? Yeah. That was the question. This is there in it, actually. Yeah. Good, it came from you.
See, when it comes to non-fiction, I can write it in English directly. But when it comes to fiction, I can't. So I know that very well. Because writing fiction expects your social language. And my characters come from Karnataka. They speak fluently Kannada. And their social language is Kannada. With auto drivers, they speak Kannada. With bus conductors, they speak Kannada. Then how come, I write them first time, in English? Then they run away. And the second thing is, writing is such a process. If you delay it, or if you abstract it, like opening the dictionary or searching for words or worrying for the grammar or worrying for tenses, whether the article is missing or not, like that, then then you can't write it. The first time story writing is not possible at all. So for the first time story writing, the language fluency is a must, and for me it is Kannada. So it's written for this Janma.
Shall we conclude? Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone, and congratulations again to Dattathri. We hope this will reach the world audience in a nice way, and people will read it, and he get more laurels in his life. And thanks to Sapna for providing this opportunity and space and interaction with you people. So they have arranged it so well. So thanks to everyone, Dodegoda and Sir, he manager here. So everyone we would like to thank, and last but not least, all of you. So it's very important. It's only if one reader reads and tells 10 people that it's a good book, like a Jyoti, the one lamp is lightening the other 10 lamp, it spreads. That's the only way a book can reach the other readers. It's not by promotion, not by any of those things. It's only by a reader suggesting another reader that it's a good book. That's the ultimate promotion, actually. So read, and if you are already read in Kannada, please tell your English readers who cannot read Kannada to buy the book and gift them, so that they will come to know how beautiful Kannada also has got novels, literature, especially Kannada literature is world class without any doubt. Okay, so we need to promote as a part of our responsibility, social responsibility, all Kannadigas. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.